David Schwartz, finally able to talk about cryptocurrencies and how security law applies. Because for a while there, he's kind of limited on what he could say during the Ripple court case. Now we have a ruling by the judge, and he's a little more free to speak. And so he's going through this thought process here about, there's a lot of assets we buy specifically because we hope it goes up in value. That could be baseball cards, a block of gold. It could even be fine art. And so David says the following, that, the value of baseball cards, like other collectibles, it's intrinsically tied to the efforts of the promoters and manufacturers. They got to maintain a scarcity. If you printed 1 million, Babe Ruth rookie cards, wouldn't be worth that much. He further uses the example of fine art. If you buy art early in an artist's career, you're making a gamble that they're going to become more and more successful over time, that the value of their art will rise based on the success of their career. That's on the efforts of others. So what's missing in these transactions? Well, some sort of contractual agreement that takes the place of a security. When we look at the Howey test, Howey Company sold orange groves. It was a non-security transaction, but they wrapped the transaction in all these contractual agreements that gave you the same rights and abilities and things you would expect from a stock or a bond. And so the court looked at that and said, you're obviously trying to work around securities regulations, but still give the buyer all the same things you would look when buying a stock or some other traditional security. So security laws still apply. When we look at cryptocurrencies, the SEC was trying to really stretch this out quite a ways. I'm not saying they're totally wrong, but they wanted the judge really to look at a lot of hypothetical contracts. They weren't written, they weren't verbal. It was just under the assumption that every buyer of that asset on the secondary market just intrinsically understood that, Ripple was going to go out and build more value for XRP. And again, that would go back to fine art and a lot of other stuff, right? And so the judge wasn't willing to go that far, wasn't willing to play this hypothetical game with the SECs. She had to see some sort of contract there, and that's what she saw with the institutional sales. Those contractual agreements took the place of a classical security. And I don't think it's so much she's a fan of crypto. She's just looking, if I do this little game for XRP, we're going to have to do it for artists and collectibles and all sorts of things where society doesn't want that. We understand there's certain assets you can buy where this is not a securities transaction. And if you're going to apply that to XRP, it could jump over into all sorts of other stuff we don't want. So where does this leave us? Is it just, hey, it should be a free run for crypto assets? Probably not. What probably has to happen is Congress has to sit down and go, you know what? This is a new asset class. It needs finely tailored rules. We're not dealing with stocks or bonds here when someone buys crypto, but it's not also quite gold or collectibles. It might need a little bit of light reporting here so investors know a lot of the, behind the scenes stuff that goes on. And we see this time and time again where it's not the Ripples or the Ethereum foundations, but fly-by-night people do rug pulls and just investors don't have all the info they need to make informed decisions. We need some updates here. It's clear as day, but that ain't the SEC's call. That's going to be Congress's call to write those laws, and it'll have to go through the whole process. We understand that. We saw a recent, interview with Jay Clayton, former SEC commissioner, who had a novel idea. Let's have regulated exchanges. These assets can trade on there in a compliant manner until Congress can get around to doing that. That's a great stopgap. Unfortunately, Jay Satan wasn't interested in doing that when he was SEC chairman, and it doesn't look like the current Gary Gensler wants to do anything sensible like that either. So we're at a little bit of a stalemate here. But the good news is they can't stop us. They can't stop this revolution, and the day will come when we have to have sensible regulations. We're going to get there, and the best way to do so is people like David and hopefully someday regulators and market participants and investors having this informed conversation so we can work through these issues. It's not easy. I'm not claiming the SEC's job is easy or entrepreneurs or even investors, but everyone's so scared to talk because they don't want to be sued next or they don't want to, harm their case. And so we're in this standstill, this stupid area, but we're going to bust through here soon enough. Because you have your BlackRocks, your Fidelities, they're not going to play this game of gray area. They're going to want clear laws, and they're going to get them. You best believe that. Midas Wells had a great post here. He said, currently, when you look at the Ethereum network as a whole, the layer 1 and also its layer 2s, it's achieving in totality about a 77 TPS, looking at everything. The cost of transactions is about 83 cents. When we compare that to the XRP ledger, the TPS on the ledger is about 2 less. Now again, we're looking at Ethereum layer 1 and the whole infrastructure of its layer 2s to even get close, but the cost is still so much lower. Instead of 83 cents, it's way less than a cent. And so he poses the question, if we have smart contracts on the XRP ledger, hey, might it be the superior way to do this type of stuff? And what I would retort is, I'm not so sure you could keep those high TPS numbers and also that low cost if you are gumming up the works with a bunch of smart contracts transactions. Now, the Zahao network will kind of give us a look there. We'll get to have an idea of what this type of system might look like. Might the ledger with a full smart contract capability still be able to scale and be fast? I don't know. I mean, consensus algorithm is very efficient. Maybe they can tune this thing to do it, but it's still that unknown. I mean, there was a time when Ethereum laughed at Bitcoin in terms of the timing and the cost, and we saw what happened there. Once you really loaded the network with a ton of activity, well, all that stuff started going up in the wrong direction. This is what I love about the Zahao network. We can see to some degree how this will function on a live network with real value, and what type of stuff can we do without really affecting the performance. Interesting article here. It's titled, "What's Next for Binance's CZ?" We see the U.S. sentencing guidelines call for CZ to receive roughly 12 to 18 months, but the Department of Justice is willing to fight for a longer term. They're basically saying, look, this guy made so many billions of dollars, and this stretched for so many years. It's a massive operation. He should get far more time than that. They're talking about 10 years. Now, we all know John Reed Stark. He's anti-crypto, but a valuable resource. And he's like, you know what? If the DOJ wants to get more time here, they better have something up their sleeve, some additional information showing more criminality, or probably he'll get somewhere within that range of 12 to 18 months. In my mind, this is the deal. CZ came in voluntarily. They should have had something agreed there in terms of the jail time, and they probably do. This is probably a lot to try to save face for what will look like a light prison sentence, a light punishment. But I think at the end of the day, the DOJ had to do something. They couldn't forcefully make CZ come back here or stop what he was doing because much of it was, overseas. And what they get out of this is a fairly huge penalty that they couldn't have forcefully took. They get Binance to leave the U.S. market. And further, they're going to get to monitor Binance International's, transactions going forward. So I think you get a lot of that activity that was going on before, that's going to go away. We have a safer crypto space in that regard. And they got the best win that was available to them. I always say this about the SEC. They can't understand, just take the win and make crypto a little better. It's not about getting maximum penalties and, when you really don't have that ability to make it happen. If I had to guess, CZ's going to get probably some kind of house arrest, 12 to 18 months, and he'll be done. Now, the next article from Forbes is titled, "Binance Dies and Crypto is Birthed." And again, Binance isn't dead. It's the international, business will still continue on, albeit a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. But that is part of this about, running out that old school to bring in the new school. We've heard Kraken complain. It's very hard to compete with what Binance was able to offer. They weren't playing by the same rules, nor should they have to, honestly, because they're an international business. But either way, BlackRock, Fidelity, all your big institutions, they don't care about what's fair. They're just looking at Binance saying, if that stays in its same form, we can't compete with that. We'll just get trounced. And you know how this game works. They ain't going to play like that. That's what this is. This is evening the playing field, even if it's not just or right, down to their level, how they're going to operate, making sure there's no runaway power out there within crypto like Binance. The game is rigged, people. You best understand that. But the good thing is they can only rig the business components like Binance the exchange or Coinbase or BlackRock ETFs. They can't, rig the underlying technology, that blockchain decentralized technology that will continue free and open as it always has been. We have a post here by David Schiller. And he's talking about, when you look at all the different blockchains, they have a lot of hype and discussion and usage around them. We don't have that with Polkadot. Polkadot is not on this trajectory to really start moving up. And we have this OpenGov proposals where there's a treasury and we can all vote for stuff. And so they're trying to, get different influencers. This is proposal 304 where Mario is going to get paid some money to do some informational videos and some, various media around Polkadot to try to get the word out there. And this is what I would tell you with any, blockchain. It has to be ready to be used when the time is right. And I think when you look at Polkadot, we're getting there. It's got some amazing dApps, the functionality is increasing, and this is what we saw last time with Binance, right? The Binance chain was ready when the bull run started, and people were trying to farm and earn yield, and they were looking at Ethereum, and the cost was way too high, and so they started spilling over onto the BNB chain, and that was a great place to transact and do some of this DeFi action. And it was this bull run where you're bringing on a lot of people, and Ethereum can't meet it all, and so it spilled over to the blockchain that's ready. So I don't think everything here is just about paying people to shield the network, and that could be part of it, of course, but I think it's ready to strike when the moment is right. It's great to be launching new services and upgrades right as that interest is hitting a peak. And I think we'll see that a little bit also with XRP if we get AMMs going, and also stable coins that could bring a lot more usage to the network as well. In full disclosure, Minus Wells and myself, we have an offer up there to get paid from the treasury to do some DOT content. Now, what I've seen, the average cost for this is somewhere around $50,000 to $250,000 worth of DOT to do this type of thing for Minus Wells. In my proposal, we're asking for 3 DOT. In other words, we just want to do it. It's kind of fun to put our proposal up there. I don't know if it'll pass or not. Again, we're not big influencers like some of these other people. We'll do the content anyway. We just wanted to jump in here and play around with this OpenGov proposal. I have an article here from Fortune that's saying beware of crypto grifters looking to cash in on AI party. So AI is getting really hot. You're going to see a lot of crypto tokens that claim to have some connection to AI. We've seen this in the past, but I wouldn't be so quick to judge every AI cryptocurrency project is a scam or a grift. They're going to do some really amazing work out there. And in this article, it says they're totally unrelated. I disagree with that. I think those two technologies are symbiotic. And I think there's going to be some really great opportunities. We saw, AI crypto have a big run early in the year. And I think that is just a peek at what's going to happen. I think AI is going to be big in 2024. But again, you have to find the projects that have substance and not just talk about AI in some manner. And we've seen this with every area of cryptocurrencies, whether it's DeFi or gaming. Some people actually do the work and others just talk about it. Lastly, I have this post by Scam Detective 6. We're talking about why there won't be an XRP ETF in the US anytime soon, except for maybe fake ones. And what he's talking about, they have this XRP ETP, which is the same thing, I think, as an ETF, just they call it ETP in Europe. It's the ETC group. And it's got $1.3 million under management. Essentially, there's not a lot of demand there. And I don't think this is something special necessarily to XRP. I think most of the appetite out there right now is for Bitcoin ETFs. And if they're going to roll over to the alt market right now, institutional and big investors, they're looking at Ethereum. That would probably be the only other one right now that has enough appetite there to warrant an ETF. But it's going to change as we go forward. BlackRock's already getting ready for that. We see those reports that break crypto down into sectors and kind of explain why you might need an XRP or a Polkadot or a Cardano or some other type of cryptocurrencies. They're educating, and this is par for the course. People jump in usually because of Bitcoin or Ethereum, and they start rolling off into other spaces. And it's not going to be any different. They're going to want to capture this whole market, and over time they will. So there will be a time when there's a standalone XRP ETF. And there are also, to combat this problem, there'll be bundles. So there'll be an XRP, an XLM, and an XDC, let's say. And they'll have a Solana, a Cardano, and a Polkadot, where it covers, layer 1 smart contracts and on down the line. So those bundle some of this to increase demand. We're going to see just really crazy products going forward. And just know this. Your big money, they want to capture it all. They want, the whole pie, not just one piece of it. And over time, you're going to see more demand grow as people wrap their mind around the altcoin market and as more winners emerge. So we're going to get an XRP ETF. I just don't see it happening imminently, like, the next 6 months or something like that. Let me know what you think down below. And as always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.